The twin crimson suns of Solara 9 cast long shadows across the market district as Captain Maya Torres adjusted her diplomatic uniform for the fifth time that morning. Dust from the desert moon's surface clung to everything, and she brushed it away with practiced precision. The formal attire, midnight blue with silver accents, representing Earth's diplomatic corps, felt especially constricting in the arid heat. "Final briefing, Captain," her aide said, handing her a datapad. "The Clareth delegation will arrive in approximately 20 minutes. Maya nodded, scrolling through the information. It was nothing she hadn't already memorized during the 3-month journey from Earth. The Clareth, a sentient species indigenous to the Alteris system, had only recently made contact with humanity. This meeting on neutral ground would lay the foundation for potential trade agreements, scientific exchanges, and perhaps even military alliance. What the briefing lacked was detailed information on Clareth social customs. The xenoanthropologists had provided only fragmentary observations, none from direct contact. The Clareth were notoriously private about their cultural practices. "No pressure," Maya muttered to herself. "Just the future of interstellar relations riding on this meeting." She tucked the datapad away and stepped out from the shade of her temporary headquarters. The market district of Solara 9 buzzed with activity merchants from a dozen worlds hawking their wares, the air thick with exotic spices and the chatter of translation devices. Perfect neutral ground for first official contact. In the central plaza, a temporary pavilion had been erected. Its crystalline walls shimmered environmentally controlled to suit both human and Clareth physiology. Maya's team had already arranged the ceremonial gifts, rare earth minerals, digital libraries of human art and literature, and carefully selected diplomatic tokens. Nothing that could be misconstrued as a weapon or insult. At least, she hoped not. "Captain Torres," her communications officer called. "They're approaching the eastern entrance." Maya straightened her back and plastered on her most diplomatic smile. 10 years of training had prepared her for this moment. She had negotiated with the militant Procyons and brokered peace on Nova Centauri. This was just another first contact. The procession that entered the plaza silenced the usual market clamor. The Clareth moved with undulating grace, their opalescent skin reflecting the sunlight in hypnotic patterns. Each stood nearly 7 feet tall, with slender limbs and elongated faces. What immediately drew the eye, however, were the 2 prominent bulbous organs protruding from their chests, round glistening structures the size of large grapefruits, pulsing with bioluminescence. Maya had been briefed on these organs, colloquially termed melons, by the human observation teams. They served as complex sensory apparatus, capable of detecting electromagnetic fluctuations, temperature variations, and even emotional states. The xenobiologists were fascinated by them. What the briefing had failed to properly emphasize was the cultural significance of these organs. The leading Clareth, adorned with intricate metal filigree around its melons clearly denoting high status, approached the center of the pavilion. Its movements were deliberate ceremonial. The delegation behind it moved in perfect synchrony. This was it, the moment human history would remember first official greeting between Earth and the Clareth conclave. Maya stepped forward confidently, arm extended in humanity's universal greeting. "On behalf of Earth and the United Planetary Alliance, I extend friendship and—" The words died in her throat as the entire Clareth delegation recoiled in what could only be described as collective horror. The lead envoy's melons flashed rapidly from peaceful blue to alarming crimson. The harmonious movements of moments before dissolved into agitated gestures. "You dare!" The translation device struggled with the tone, but the meaning was unmistakable. "You would violate the sacred honor of the melons with your appendage." Maya froze, hands still extended in the interrupted handshake. Around her, her team looked equally confused. "I don't understand," Maya managed. "This is a standard human greeting." "Savages," hissed another Clareth. "We were warned the humans lack all decency, but to flaunt such disrespect at a formal greeting." The lead envoy, now addressing its delegation, rather than Maya, gestured dramatically toward its chest melons. They would touch hands rather than honor the essence. This confirms all we feared. With synchronized movements that seemed both beautiful and threatening, the Clarith delegation turned as one and departed the pavilion. The entire exchange had lasted less than 90 seconds. Maya stood in stunned silence as the reality of what had just occurred sank in. Somehow, in her very first action, she had managed to grievously insult an alien race and potentially doom humanity's chance at an important alliance. "What just happened?" her aide whispered. The communications officer was already frantically scanning the cultural database. "Something about the handshake, Captain. Something about their melons." "Get me everything we have on Clarith greeting customs," Maya ordered, her mind racing. "And someone contact command. We need to fix this immediately." As her team scrambled to damage control, Maya stared at the empty doorway where the Clarith had departed. Outside, the market continued its busy commerce, oblivious to the diplomatic disaster that had just unfolded. This was not how first contact was supposed to go. The emergency communication with Earth took 3 hours to establish, and another 2 hours of increasingly uncomfortable explanations before Admiral Khatri's expression shifted from fury to resignation. "Let me understand this correctly, Captain Torres." The Admiral said, the holographic projection flickering slightly. "You extended your hand in greeting, and this was interpreted as some kind of grave insult." Maya nodded, standing at attention despite her exhaustion. "Yes, sir. Based on what our team has been able to piece together from the anthropological data and local sources, the Clarith consider their chest organs, the melons, to be sacred receptacles of identity and honor. Their traditional greeting involves a specific gesture toward these organs. And instead you tried to shake hands." "Yes, sir. In retrospect, there were cultural briefing notes about this, but the significance was understated." The Admiral pinched the bridge of his nose. "Understated. So instead of establishing diplomatic relations with a technologically advanced species, controlling access to 3 resource-rich systems, we've insulted their most sacred cultural practice." "That's an accurate summary, sir." "The diplomatic corps spent 2 years preparing for this meeting, Torres." Maya swallowed. "I'm aware, sir." "The Procyon Coalition is expanding their territory. The Andromeda Alliance is negotiating with the Varisians. We needed this alliance." "I understand the strategic importance, sir." Admiral Khatri's hologram leaned forward. "I should recall you immediately, but that would only telegraph weakness to the Clarith, and we can't afford further destabilization in that sector." Maya felt a spark of hope. "So I can attempt to repair the relationship." "You have 72 hours, Captain. If you haven't made progress by then, I'm sending in Ambassador Liu to replace you. This is too important to risk on cultural misunderstandings." "Understood, sir. I won't disappoint you." The Admiral's expression suggested he remained unconvinced. "See that you don't. Khatri out." The hologram vanished, leaving Maya alone in the communications room. She allowed herself exactly 5 seconds of despair before straightening her shoulders and heading back to the strategy room. Her team had gathered all available information on Clarith greeting customs, which amounted to depressingly little. The display showed grainy observation footage of Clarith interactions, most captured from a distance. "What have we got?" Maya asked, sliding into her seat. Lieutenant Patel gestured to the main screen. "The greeting ritual appears to be called the Honor of the Melons, or something that translates similarly. It involves a specific positioning of the hands and a bow." The footage showed 2 Clarith facing each other. Each raised their hands to chest level, cupped them slightly, and made a motion toward their own melons before extending the gesture toward the other, followed by a shallow bow. "It seems to symbolize offering one's sensory truth to another," Patel continued. "Their melons apparently function as truth-sensing organs. The gesture represents vulnerability and honesty." "And I tried to grab the envoy's hand instead," Maya said grimly. No wonder they were horrified. Her cultural attaché, Sanjay Mehta, looked up from his notes. According to what we've been able to gather from local merchants, who've had limited contact with them, offering a hand could be interpreted as attempting to, well, grope their melons. Highly inappropriate, especially in a formal setting. Wonderful. Maya rubbed her temples. So I basically attempted to sexually harass the envoy in front of their entire delegation. Not exactly sexual in their context, Meta clarified, but perhaps analogous to trying to fondle someone's eyes or brain. Their melons are their primary connection to reality sacred truth organs. That doesn't make me feel better. Maya stood and began pacing. We need to apologize properly. How do we request another meeting? That's the other problem, said Patel. They've withdrawn completely to their compound on the far side of the settlement. They're refusing all communication. Maya stopped pacing. Then we'll have to go to them. Captain, Meta said cautiously, that could be interpreted as another violation of protocol. What's the alternative? Wait for them to cool off. Maya shook her head. We have 72 hours before I'm replaced, and Earth takes a more aggressive diplomatic stance. That won't end well for anyone. She turned to the screen, studying the greeting footage again. I need to learn this properly. Not just the mechanical movements, but the cultural significance. Who's our best resource on Clarith culture? Patel and Meta exchanged glances. There's an ethnographer, Meta said finally. He's been studying the Clarith from a distance for several years. Dr. Hiran Cho. Not officially affiliated with the diplomatic corps, but respected in xenoanthropological circles. Where can we find him? That's the thing, Patel said. He lives in the Clarith settlement. Not in their compound, but in a border district where some outsiders are tolerated. He's one of the few humans they allow near their community. Maya nodded decisively. Then that's where I'm going. Arrange transport. And find me something appropriate to wear, not the uniform. If I'm going to learn their customs, I need to look less official. Captain, Meta protested, this is extremely irregular. Protocol dictates. Protocol got us into this mess. Maya cut him off. Sometimes diplomacy requires a personal touch. She allowed herself a small, ironic smile. Just not apparently a handshake. 6 hours later, dressed in neutral clothing that would attract minimal attention, Maya approached the outskirts of the Clarith settlement. From a distance, it resembled a forest of giant, bioluminescent mushrooms-living buildings that pulsed with soft light in the gathering dusk. Her guide, a Solaran merchant who occasionally traded with the Clarith, pointed to a modest structure at the settlement's edge. The human scholar lives there. No guarantees he'll help you. He's particular. Maya thanked the guide and approached the dwelling alone. Unlike the organic structures of the Clarith Center, this building appeared to be a hybrid part, grown part constructed with a distinctly human door set into the living wall. She knocked conscious of every movement. No accidental offenses this time. The door slid open to reveal a thin, human man with silver-streaked black hair pulled back in a neat queue. He wore a loose garment that resembled Clarith attire, but adapted for human physiology. Dr. Hiran Cho, Maya asked. His eyes narrowed. The human who tried to shake hands with Elder Valoth. News traveled fast. That would be me, yes, Captain Maya Torres. I know who you are. He studied her for a long moment. What do you want? Your help. I need to understand the Clarith greeting ritual, the proper way to show respect. Why? So you can complete your mission and go home with a signed treaty. Maya met his gaze directly. Partly yes, that's my job, but also because I genuinely regret the offense I caused. I want to make it right. Dr. Cho seemed to weigh her sincerity. Finally, he stepped back from the doorway. You can come in, but understand the Clarith don't forgive easily, especially not outsiders who violate sacred customs. The interior of Cho's dwelling was a fascinating blend of human and Clarith aesthetics. Scientific equipment shared space with what appeared to be ritual objects. The walls themselves seemed alive, pulsing faintly with bioluminescence. You've gone native, Maya observed. I've adapted, Cho corrected, gesturing for her to sit on a low cushion. When in Rome, Captain Torres. Maya, please. Maya, he settled across from her. Do you know why your handshake caused such offense? I've been told the Clareth melons are sacred organs of truth perception. The greeting ritual involves honoring them. Cho nodded approvingly. That's the beginning of understanding. The melons, a crude human term, by the way, are called phalloth in their language. They're not merely sensory organs. They're the center of Clareth identity. They perceive truth on multiple levels: electromagnetic, chemical, emotional. A Clareth's phalloth are unique, like fingerprints. They're how Clareth know each other as individuals. He poured a steaming liquid into 2 cups. The greeting ritual, honoring the truth between us, isn't just a formality. It's an invitation to be known truly. By offering your hand instead, you essentially said, I reject your truth and identity. Maya winced. That's much worse than I realized. It gets worse, Cho said, handing her a cup. Elder Veloth is the keeper of traditional customs. Your offense didn't just insult her. It confirmed her faction's fears about humans as arrogant, disrespectful species. There are factions. Cho took a sip from his cup. The Clareth aren't monolithic. Veloth leads the traditionalists who believe in preserving cultural purity. There's a progressive faction that advocated for contact with humans in the first place. Your handshake incident has strengthened the traditionalists' position considerably. Maya cradled her cup, absorbing this new information. So I didn't just offend an individual. I potentially shifted their internal politics. Exactly. How do I fix this? Dr. Cho studied her for a long moment. Are you willing to truly learn, Captain? Not just go through the motions, but understand what the ritual means to them. I am. It won't be easy or quick. The ritual has subtle variations based on context, relationship, and status. Maya set down her cup. I have 72 hours before Earth sends in a replacement. I'll learn whatever I can in that time. Cho raised an eyebrow. 3 days to master what Clareth children spend years perfecting. I'm a quick study. Arrogance like that is exactly what got you into trouble, Cho said sharply. The Clareth value humility above all. If you can't approach this with genuine respect and patience, you'll only make things worse. Maya took a deep breath. You're right. I apologize. She bowed her head slightly. Please, Dr. Cho, I need your guidance. Something in her tone must have convinced him, because his expression softened slightly. We'll begin immediately. But first, he reached into a cabinet and withdrew what appeared to be a garment. You'll need these. He handed her what looked like a ceremonial vest with 2 soft, rounded protrusions attached to the chest area. Training melons, he explained, his face perfectly serious. You can't properly learn the ritual without understanding the physical aspect. Maya stared at the garment, then back at Cho. You're serious? Completely. The Clareth respect effort. Wearing these shows you're willing to literally put yourself in their position. Swallowing both her pride and a strong urge to laugh, Maya accepted the garment. When in Rome, indeed. For the next 12 hours, Maya learned more about Clareth physiology and culture than most humans had discovered in years of distant observation. Dr. Cho proved to be a demanding but thorough teacher, insisting she understand the meaning behind every gesture. The position of the hands is crucial, he explained, demonstrating the cupped position. Too flat suggests impermeability to truth. Too grasping suggests attempt to control truth. Maya adjusted her hands for the 20th time, the artificial melons on her chest feeling increasingly natural as she practiced. Better, Cho conceded. Now the bow. It's not about subservience, it's acknowledgement of shared reality. Maya performed the subtle inclination, not too deep, not too shallow. Again, Cho instructed. Feel the weight of your melons as you bow. They are your connection to truth. Honor them as you would honor your own mind. By dawn, Maya's muscles ached from maintaining precise positions, but she was beginning to grasp the rhythm of the ritual. It wasn't simply a physical greeting. It was a philosophical statement, an acknowledgement of shared perception and reality. You're improving, Cho acknowledged as they took a brief rest. But performing the ritual correctly is only part of the challenge. You need to understand its place in Clarith society. I'm listening. The Clarith have three central cultural pillars: truth, community, and tradition. The greeting honors all three. By acknowledging another's truth organs, you recognize their place in the community and uphold the tradition that binds them. Maya nodded, processing this framework. So my handshake violated all three pillars. Precisely. You rejected their truth, placed yourself outside their community, and disregarded their tradition. Cho poured her another cup of the fragrant tea. To make amends, you need to demonstrate respect for all three. How? That's what we'll work on next. But first, we need a Clarith perspective. He checked the time. My research assistant should be arriving soon. As if on cue, there was a soft chime at the door. Cho opened it to reveal a Clarith smaller than those Maya had seen in the delegation with melons that glowed a gentle azure. Captain Torres, this is Saerth, my assistant and cultural interpreter. The young Clarith's melons flashed briefly with surprise, then settled back to blue. The human who offended Elder Valoth. Maya resisted the urge to sigh. Apparently that would be her legacy here. Yes, she admitted. I'm trying to learn the proper way to greet your people. Saerth's head tilted in a gesture Maya was beginning to recognize as curiosity. Why, the damage is done. Because I respect your culture enough to want to understand it, Maya replied carefully. My ignorance caused offense, but ignorance can be cured through learning. Saerth's melons pulsed thoughtfully. An interesting perspective. Most Outworlders don't bother. Maya is different, Cho interjected. She's wearing the training melons. This seemed to impress Saerth, whose posture relaxed slightly. Few humans would humble themselves so. Will you help me? Maya asked directly. I need to understand not just the movements, but the meaning. Saerth considered for a long moment, melons shifting through subtle color variations. Yes, she finally decided, but not just in here. You must see how the greeting functions in Clarith society. Cho looked alarmed. Saerth taking her into the settlement is risky. If the traditionalists see her, how can she understand the context without witnessing it? Saerth countered. Besides, the outer gardens are open to respectful visitors. We won't enter the inner districts. Maya looked between them. I'll follow your guidance completely, Saerth. If you believe this will help me understand, I'm willing to take the risk. Saerth's melons brightened. Good. We'll go at twilight when fewer will be in the gardens. Until then, she gestured to Maya's training melons. We practice. With Saerth's guidance, the ritual took on new dimensions. Where Cho had taught Maya the mechanics, Saerth conveyed the emotional resonance. Your melons don't just sense truth. They project your essential self, she explained. When properly honored, they connect you to the universal truth web that binds all Clarith together. Maya practiced the subtle variations: formal greeting, casual acknowledgement, respectful honor to an elder. Your hands still move like a human's, Saerth observed. Too direct, too purposeful. Clarith hands flow like water, revealing truth rather than grasping it. Maya tried again, focusing on the fluid movement rather than the end position. Better, Saerth approved. You begin to understand. Now prepare yourself. We'll visit the outer gardens. As twilight approached, Saerth provided Maya with a hooded robe that would partially conceal her human features. The artificial melons remained visible beneath the robe, a necessary signal of respect. Stay close, Saerth instructed, as they left Cho's dwelling. Speak only if addressed directly, and then softly. Most important, observe how different Clarith greet each other. The subtle variations tell much about relationship and status. The outer gardens of the Clarith settlement were unlike any park Maya had ever seen. Bioluminescent fungi grew in intricate patterns, creating living pathways through groves of what appeared to be crystalline trees. The air carried a sweet, alien perfume that made Maya's head swim slightly. Clarith moved through the gardens in small groups, their melons glowing with various hues that reflected their emotional states. Saerth guided Maya to a secluded viewing platform, where they could observe without drawing attention. "Watch," Saerth whispered. "Two friends meeting." Below them, two Clareth approached each other. Their greeting was the ritual Maya had practiced, but performed with a casual fluidity that spoke of long familiarity. Their melons brightened as they completed the gesture, pulsing in synchronized patterns. "Their melons are conversing," Saerth explained, exchanging emotional truths too subtle for verbal language. Maya watched, fascinated. "So the verbal greeting is just the beginning?" "Yes, words are limited. Melons speak truth directly to truth." They observed several more interactions, formal greetings between strangers, respectful acknowledgments between different social ranks, intimate reconnections between close associates. "It's beautiful," Maya said softly, "like a dance where everyone knows their part." Saerth's melons pulsed with approval. "You begin to see. This is why Elder Veloth was so offended. Your handshake was like interrupting the dance with discordant noise." A commotion near the garden entrance drew their attention. A group of Clareth with elaborately decorated melons entered, moving with formal precision. "Traditionalists," Saerth whispered, drawing Maya deeper into the shadows. "Veloth's inner circle. We should leave." But before they could retreat, a sharp voice called out in the Clareth language. Saerth froze, her melons flashing with alarm. "What is it?" Maya whispered. "They've seen us. Someone recognized me." Saerth straightened. "Stay behind me. Say nothing." 3. Clareth approached their position, melons glowing angry crimson. The leader addressed Saerth in their language, gesturing sharply. Saerth responded calmly, her hands making subtle movements near her melons that Maya recognized as a respectful but firm stance. The exchange grew heated. The lead Clareth pointed directly at Maya, then made a gesture that even she could interpret as accusatory. Finally, Saerth turned to Maya. "We must go. Now." They retreated rapidly through a side path, the angry voices following them. Once clear of the gardens, Saerth increased their pace until they reached Cho's dwelling. "What happened?" Maya asked as they hurried inside. Cho was waiting, his expression concerned. "I warned you this was risky." "It was necessary," Saerth replied, her melons still pulsing with distress. "But yes, we've encountered a complication." "What kind of complication?" Maya pressed. Saerth's melons dimmed slightly. "I've been accused of betraying tradition by assisting the human who dishonored Elder Veloth. They've summoned me to the Inner Council at dawn to explain my actions." "That sounds ominous," Maya said. "It is," Cho confirmed. "The Inner Council rarely summons anyone outside the traditional faction. This is Veloth's way of shutting down your attempt to make amends." Maya felt a surge of protective anger. "You were only helping me understand your culture. That shouldn't be punishable." "To the traditionalists, sharing our sacred truths with outworlders is problematic," Saerth explained. "Especially after your greeting offense." "Will you be safe?" Maya asked directly. Saerth's melons flickered uncertainly. "I will not be physically harmed, but my position in the community could be compromised. I might be restricted from further contact with outworlders, including Dr. Cho." "Yes." Maya paced the small room, thinking rapidly. "This is my fault. I need to fix it." "How?" Cho asked skeptically. "You can barely perform the basic greeting ritual correctly." "I'll improve," Maya insisted. "Intensively, tonight. And then I'll accompany Saerth to the council." Both Saerth and Cho looked alarmed at this suggestion. "Impossible," Cho said flatly. "The Inner Council would never allow a human to attend." "They don't have to welcome me," Maya countered. "But I can accompany Saerth to the entrance and perform the proper greeting ritual. Show them I'm learning that I respect their traditions." "A public display." Saerth mused, her melons shifting to a thoughtful purple. "It could work, or it could make things worse." "Is there any other option?" Maya asked. Saerth and Cho exchanged glances. "No," Saerth admitted. "But if you attempt this, your performance must be perfect. Any mistake will only confirm their belief that humans are incapable of understanding Clareth truth." Maya straightened her shoulders. Then we practice until it is perfect, all night if necessary. What followed was the most intense training session of Maya's career. Cho and Saerth worked in tandem, refining every aspect of her performance. The positioning of her fingers, the angle of her bow, the rhythm of her movements, all scrutinized and corrected repeatedly. Your intentions matter as much as your movements, Saerth emphasized. Clareth Melons sense emotional truth. If you perform the ritual perfectly, but without sincere respect, they will know. Maya nodded, understanding. This wasn't just about going through the motions. It was about genuinely embodying the philosophy behind the ritual. As the hours passed, her artificial melons began to feel like natural extensions of herself. She found herself growing protective of them, aware of their position and presentation. The ritual movements flowed more naturally as she internalized their meaning. The final test, Cho announced as dawn approached. Perform the full ritual for Saerth, as if she were Elder Veloth herself. Maya took a deep breath, centering herself. She visualized her artificial melons not as foreign appendages, but as her own truth organs, her connection to reality. She raised her hands in the precise cupped position, made the flowing gesture of offering her own truth first, then extended the acknowledgement toward Saerth's melons. The bow followed naturally, expressing respect without subservience. When she straightened, both Cho and Saerth were watching her intently. "Well?" Maya asked anxiously. Saerth's melons pulsed with a warm, golden light. "You have learned more in one night than most Outworlders learn in years." "Is it enough?" "It will have to be," Cho said, checking the time. "The council convenes in 1 hour." The approach to the inner council chamber took them through the heart of the Clareth settlement. Maya kept her hood raised, but did not hide her artificial melons. The stares of passing Clareth ranged from curious to hostile, but no one interfered with their progress. "Remember," Saerth murmured, as they neared the impressive structure that housed the council. "You are not expected to speak. The greeting ritual alone will make your statement." "I understand," Maya replied, trying to project confidence she didn't entirely feel. The council chamber resembled an enormous melon itself, pulsing with bioluminescence that shifted in complex patterns. A guard detail awaited them at the entrance, tall Clareth, with ceremonial staffs and elaborately decorated melons. "They're expecting me alone," Saerth told them in the Clareth language. The lead guard responded with obvious disapproval, gesturing toward Maya. "I vouch for this human," Saerth replied firmly. "She comes to demonstrate respect for our ways." After a tense moment, the guards parted to allow them approach to the outer chamber. Maya could see through the translucent walls that the inner council was already assembling a dozen Elder Clareth, seated in a semicircle, their melons glowing with formal blues and purples. In the center of the arc sat Elder Veloth, unmistakable with her ornate melon decorations and commanding presence. Her gaze fixed on Maya with immediate recognition and obvious displeasure. "This is where we part," Saerth said quietly. "I must enter alone." Maya nodded, then impulsively reached out, stopping just short of touching Saerth's arm. "Thank you. Whatever happens, I won't forget your help." Saerth's melons pulsed warmly. "Perform the ritual as you have learned with sincerity. That is all I ask." As Saerth moved toward the entrance, Maya took her position. The guards watched suspiciously, hands tight on their ceremonial staffs. The chamber doors parted. All eyes within turned toward the entrance. This was the moment, her last chance to salvage the diplomatic mission and protect Saerth from consequences she didn't deserve. Maya stepped forward into the pool of light that spilled from the chamber. She lowered her hood, revealing her human features, but also the ceremonial melons she wore. A murmur rippled through the council. Veloth rose slightly, her melons flashing with surprise and what might have been outrage. Maya met her gaze directly, then began the ritual. Her hands rose to the precise cupped position, fingers curved just as Saerth had taught her. She made the flowing gesture toward her own artificial melons, not mechanical, but with the fluid grace she had practiced all night. The chamber fell silent. She extended the gesture toward Veloth, acknowledging the Elder's Truth Center, with the proper respect. Then, the bow exactly the right depth to convey respect without subservience. When she straightened, Maya added one final element that neither Cho nor Saerth had taught her, a subtle gesture that she had observed in the gardens, used only between clerics of significant connection. Her fingers traced a gentle arc from her melons toward Saerth, indicating association and protection. The silence in the chamber was absolute. Even the guards seemed frozen in place. Elder Veloth remained standing, her melons shifting through colors so rapidly that Maya couldn't interpret them. The elder's gaze moved from Maya to Saerth and back again. Then, with deliberate slowness, Veloth raised her own hands. She performed the response ritual, the acknowledgement of Maya's gesture, the reciprocal honor. A collective gasp rippled through the council. Veloth spoke her words translated by the small device at Maya's collar. The human has learned, imperfectly, but with evident sincerity. Another council member protested Melons, flashing agitation. This changes nothing. The initial offense was born of ignorance, not malice. Veloth finished, surprising everyone. She wears the training, Melons. She has studied our ways. The elder's gaze fixed on Maya. Few outworlders make such effort. Maya remained silent as instructed, though her heart raced with cautious hope. Veloth gestured to Saerth. You have taught her well. This reflects favorably on your judgment. Saerth's melons pulsed with obvious relief. Thank you, Elder. Veloth returned her attention to Maya. Captain Torres, your initial greeting caused great offense. Your current gesture demonstrates respect. This balance must be considered. Maya finally spoke, keeping her voice appropriately modulated. Elder Veloth, I came seeking understanding, not merely formal reconciliation. I have learned much from Saerth and Dr. Hiran Cho about the significance of the melons and the truth they represent. My ignorance has been partially cured, though I recognize I have much still to learn. Her words were translated into the Cleric language, causing another ripple of reaction through the council. Veloth's melons stabilized to a deep, thoughtful blue. The human diplomatic delegation is still on Solara 9. Yes, Elder. Tell them we will meet again. Tomorrow. A new beginning. Veloth made a gesture Maya hadn't seen before. Bring Dr. Hiran Cho as cultural interpreter, and her gaze shifted to Saerth. My young truth seeker will represent the progressive faction. Perhaps there is wisdom in both tradition and openness. Maya performed the gratitude gesture Saerth had taught her, a subtle motion, near the hard acknowledgement of truth received. Until tomorrow, then, she said. As they departed the council chamber, Saerth's melons glowed with barely contained excitement. That was unexpected, she whispered once they were beyond earshot of the guards. Veloth never compromises on tradition. Did I do something wrong? Maya asked, suddenly concerned. The opposite. Your final gesture, the association mark you made toward me, that's usually reserved for family connections or deep friendships. Maya winced. I observed it in the gardens. I thought it indicated respect and protection. It does, but more. You essentially claimed me as what humans might call kin. Saerth's melons pulsed with what Maya was learning to recognize as amusement. Quite bold for someone who couldn't properly greet us yesterday. I'm sorry if I overstepped. Don't be. It confused the traditionalists. They couldn't reconcile such an intimate gesture with their image of humans as culturally insensitive. You introduced complexity to their thinking. They walked in silence for a moment before Saerth added, Besides, I'm not opposed to being claimed as your kin. You've shown more understanding than most humans. Back at Cho's dwelling, the ethnographer was waiting anxiously. His relief at seeing them both return unscathed quickly turned to astonishment as they related what had occurred. Veloth agreed to another meeting with both factions represented. He shook his head in disbelief. In 20 years studying the Cleric, I've never seen the traditionalists bend on protocol. Maya's sincerity was evident, Cyrith explained, and her final gesture was unexpected. Cho raised an eyebrow when they described the kinship claim. Audacious, but effective apparently. Maya removed the training melons with a strange reluctance. They had begun to feel natural, almost a part of her. I should contact my team. They need to prepare for tomorrow's meeting. First rest, Cho advised. You've been awake for nearly 30 hours. Diplomatic brilliance requires a functioning brain. Maya couldn't argue with that logic. The adrenaline that had carried her through the council confrontation was fading, leaving bone-deep exhaustion in its wake. She sent a brief coded message to Lieutenant Patel, then settled onto the sleep platform Cho offered. As consciousness faded, her last thought was of the strange journey that had brought her here from disastrous handshake to wearing alien sensory organs and claiming kinship with a Clarith truth-seeker. Diplomacy, it seemed, took unexpected paths. The second official meeting between humans and the Clarith Conclave began very differently from the first. Instead of the Market District Pavilion, they gathered in a neutral garden space at the edge of the Clarith settlement. Maya's team arrived without their formal uniforms, instead wearing simple attire with subtle Clarith-inspired elements, a suggestion from Dr. Cho that Maya had relayed. Most significantly, each human diplomat wore a simplified version of the training melons, not as prominent as Maya's had been, but visible signals of cultural respect. Remember, Maya briefed them one final time. Follow my lead on the greeting ritual. No sudden movements, no handshakes. The melons are sacred truth organs, not decorative features. Lieutenant Patel nodded nervously. What about the talking part? Do we address the melons or the face? The face, but be aware their melons will be reading your emotional state. Honesty is paramount. The Clarith delegation approached precisely on time, led by Elder Veloth. To Maya's surprise, Cyrith walked directly beside the Elder, a position of significant honor. The rest of the delegation included members from both traditionalist and progressive factions, their melon decorations indicating their affiliations. Maya stepped forward and performed the greeting ritual flawlessly, her team following, with credible attempts of their own. The Clarith responded with their own ritual acknowledgments, their melons shifting through colors that suggested cautious optimism. Captain Torres. Elder Veloth began formally. The Clarith Conclave acknowledges your effort to respect our traditions. This creates a foundation for potential understanding between our peoples. We are honored by your willingness to begin anew, Maya responded. We come seeking truth between us, not merely formal alliance. Veloth's melons pulsed with approval at the phrasing. Truth between us, yes, this is the proper beginning. The negotiations that followed were unlike any diplomatic exchange in Maya's experience. With Dr. Cho translating cultural nuances and Cyrith providing progressive perspective, they navigated complex topics with remarkable efficiency. The Clarith valued directness once proper respect had been established. They had no patience for the veiled language of traditional human diplomacy, preferring clear statements of intent and need. Your melons cannot lie, Veloth explained, when Maya expressed surprise at their candor. So we do not attempt deception with words. It would create disharmony. By midday, they had established preliminary agreements on resource-sharing, cultural exchange programs, and mutual defense parameters. The atmosphere had transformed from tense formality to productive collaboration. During a brief recess, Cyrith approached Maya privately. You've created something unprecedented, she said, her melons glowing with warm appreciation. Elder Veloth rarely allows progressives such influence in negotiations. I think she recognized that both perspectives have value, Maya replied. Just as humans and Clarith each have something to offer each other. Cyrith's melons pulsed with what Maya now recognized as their equivalent of a smile. Your truth is insightful, Captain Torres. Maya, she corrected. After claiming you as kin, I think we're past titles. Maya, Cyrith agreed. The Council has been discussing a potential exchange program. Selected humans living among us, learning our ways directly, rather than through observation, That would be invaluable. Would you consider being among the first participants? After your diplomatic mission concludes, of course. Maya found herself genuinely tempted by the offer. I'd be honored, though I'm not sure Admiral Khatri would approve reassigning me from active diplomatic service. Perhaps your admiral would see the diplomatic value in having a human who truly understands our ways, Saerth suggested. One who wears the melons with respect. The image of herself with permanent training melons living among the bioluminescent Clareth cities was simultaneously absurd and strangely appealing. I'll consider it seriously. The final session of negotiations concluded with a formal ceremonial exchange. The human delegation presented refined versions of their original gifts, now properly contextualized with cultural explanations. The Clareth offered rare crystalline growths from their sacred forests, and most significantly, a set of educational materials about their language and customs. To prevent future handshake incidents, Veloth explained with what might have been the Clareth equivalent of dry humor. As the ceremony concluded, Maya performed the farewell ritual that Saerth had taught her, similar to the greeting, but with subtle variations that conveyed continuation rather than conclusion. This is not an ending, but a beginning, she said, completing the gesture. Truth between us grows stronger with understanding. Veloth's melons glowed with formal approval. Indeed, Captain Torres. Return to your people with our goodwill. The details of our alliance will be finalized in subsequent meetings, but the foundation is secure. The human delegation departed the garden in formation, maintaining proper decorum until they were well beyond the Clareth settlement boundaries. Once clear, Lieutenant Patel let out a whoop of celebration that made Maya wince. Sorry, Captain, he said, not looking particularly sorry. But we did it. Alliance secured no interplanetary incidents, and Admiral Khatri won't have our heads on pikes. Maya allowed herself a small smile. We've made a beginning. There's still much work ahead. But the hard part is over, Meta pointed out. Getting them to talk to us again after, well, you know. The handshake incident, Maya supplied dryly. Yes, we've moved past that. But maintaining this relationship will require ongoing commitment to cultural understanding. She touched the artificial melons still attached to her chest, reluctant to remove them just yet. They represented something important, not just a diplomatic success, but a personal transformation. She had learned to see through alien eyes, to value truth, as the Clareth did. Back at their headquarters, Maya composed her official report to Admiral Khatri. She detailed the cultural misunderstanding, her unconventional approach to rectifying it, and the successful outcome of the renegotiated meeting. Preliminary alliance parameters established, she wrote. Clareth receptive to continued negotiation. Cultural exchange program proposed recommend immediate development of training protocols for human participants. She hesitated over the final section, then added, request reassignment consideration, cultural liaison to Clareth Conclave following completion of initial diplomatic mission. First-hand experience suggests immense value in having human representative with direct cultural understanding. After transmitting the report, Maya removed the artificial melons for the first time in nearly 2 days. The absence felt strange, as if she'd lost access to some essential sensory input. They grow on you, don't they? Dr. Cho observed, having joined them at headquarters to assist with cultural documentation. Literally and figuratively, Maya agreed. I'm considering Saerth's suggestion about the exchange program. You'd be good at it, Cho said. You have the right combination of respect and adaptability. Most humans either resist Clareth ways entirely or try too hard to become Clareth themselves. And where do you fall on that spectrum? Cho smiled faintly. I'm a perpetual observer, close enough to understand, distant enough to maintain perspective. Will you continue your research here? With renewed vigor. This breakthrough opens many doors. He tilted his head slightly. The Clareth respect you, Maya. That's rare and valuable. 3 days later, Admiral Khatri's response arrived. The Admiral expressed measured approval of the alliance parameters and authorized continued negotiations. The final paragraph addressed Maya's personal request. Reassignment request noted and under consideration. Complete current diplomatic mission first. Cultural liaison position has merit, particularly given demonstrated aptitude for unconventional problem-solving. Report to Earth for debriefing upon mission conclusion. Not quite approval, but not rejection either. Maya would take it. That evening, she met Sci-Fi and Dr. Cho for a final meal, before returning to full diplomatic duties. The Clarith had provided a feast of their native foods, most modified to be compatible with human physiology. "I've been authorized to continue negotiations," Maya told them, "and my request for reassignment is under consideration." Sci-Fi's Melons glowed with pleasure. "This is excellent news. The progressive faction is already preparing accommodations for potential human residents." "Don't get ahead of yourself," Cho cautioned. "Earth bureaucracy moves slowly. Approval under consideration could mean months of deliberation." "Still," Maya said, "it's a start. And regardless of my personal assignment, the cultural exchange program will move forward." They raised their glasses in a toast, a human custom that Sci-Fi had enthusiastically adopted. "To understanding between worlds," Maya proposed. "To truth between us," Sci-Fi added. As the twin crimson suns set over Solara 9, casting long shadows across the market district where it had all begun, Maya reflected on the journey. From disastrous handshake to meaningful alliance, from cultural ignorance to genuine respect. The final negotiations would take weeks, perhaps months. The details of resource-sharing, technology exchange, and mutual defense would require careful consideration by both sides. But the foundation had been established, not merely political, but cultural. In the market the following day, Maya observed a human trader cautiously performing the melon greeting ritual to a Clarith merchant. The gesture was imperfect, but sincere, and the Clarith responded with patient acknowledgement. Beside her, Sci-Fi's Melons pulsed with quiet satisfaction. "It's already spreading," she observed. "Small truths between individuals building larger truth between worlds." Maya touched the place where her training melons had been a gesture that had become habit. One greeting at a time. Next time, no handshakes. Sci-Fi teased her melons, glowing with the Clarith equivalent of laughter. "Definitely not," Maya agreed with a smile. "I think I'll stick with honoring the melons from now on." As they walked through the busy market together, human diplomat and Clarith truth seeker, the barriers between their worlds seemed just a little bit smaller. One cultural misunderstanding overcome a universe of possibility stretching before them.